What if Naruto was a prodigy part 1? Let's go. The story begins on the night of the Nine-Tails attack, where a future legend was born. A masked man, calling himself Maru Uchiha on the night of Naruto's birth, used Naruto as leverage to obtain the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, at the time Kushina Uzumaki. The reason? To use the nine-tailed beast to destroy the Leaf Village. However, there was one man standing in his way. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, a legend amongst shinobi, deemed the yellow flash of the leaf. Incredible speed, which made you only see a yellow flash before your death. The supposed Maru Uchiha is currently forcefully unsealing the nine-tailed beast out of Kushina, which is killing the Jinchuriki. And at the same time that this is happening, the masked man uses one of his eyes, which seems to be a Sharingan, a Mangekyo Sharingan, and controls the tailed beast that just came out of seeming nothingness. The giant nine-tailed fox now dominates the treetops, as now, due to him being controlled by the Sharingan of the masked man, he is now being ordered to destroy the Leaf Village. At this time, Minato is fighting the masked man, and is actually winning, so much so that the masked man retreats, though Minato for some reason knows that this cannot be Maru Uchiha. He was supposed to be dead, and even if he was alive, there's no way he'd be this weak. A legendary shinobi that was to challenge even Hashirama himself, the first Hokage who tamed all nine-tailed beasts, would not be this weak, even in his old age. So something was up. But for now, Minato had to worry about the nine-tailed beast that was rampaging through Konoha. With his flying Raijin technique, Minato was able to teleport the nine-tails away into a little more of a safe distance from Konoha, and then battle it out with the tailed beast. They were somewhat equal power-wise, but Minato was losing his edge. He had nowhere near the amount of chakra that this tailed beast had, and so he needed to do something, immediately. He thought of his wife and child, who he had brought to safety in the Namikaze compound, his hope. And even though he knew it would be a depressing future, he still had to do it. Minato grabbed both Kushina and Naruto and teleported them to the Nine-Tails. There he told Kushina his plan, to seal the tailed beast in their son. Kushina was reluctant at first, though knew that they had no chance. It was the only way to save the village, even if that meant sacrificing their son. But Minato had hope that Naruto, because of the burden of becoming a Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tails, would be hailed as a hero of Konoha. Though even he knew, a very positive guy, an optimist, knew that would likely not happen. But he was still determined to continue his plan. And so, it came to the moment when Minato used the Reaper Death Seal to seal the Nine-Tails into his own son, Naruto Uzumaki, which is what he would later be known as. And yes, in the story, Minato did seal the entirety of the tailed beast, not half of it, the entire nine-tailed beast into his son. At this point though, Minato is preparing to die along with his wife, but something happened. Something that was unexpected. A ghost of an old man seemed to touch Minato's forehead, who was already laying on the floor, holding the hand of his already now deceased wife, who was just saying her last words to her son, for him to grow strong and be loved by everyone. But now, once Minato is now preparing for his death, he suddenly felt a new surge of energy. Please, save them. As the ghost in front of him disappeared once more. Minato was dumbfounded, and didn't know what was going on. When he finally sat up, he saw his wife with her eyes open, also confused at what's going on. And all he understood is that this man wanted Minato to save someone, to save them, whoever they were. Could it be the village? No, but the Nine-Tails was now sealed inside of Naruto, so that couldn't be. But what was it? Minato came back to the village with his wife and his child, all of them having blood on them. Kushina and Naruto went to shower and sleep, but Minato, as the Hokage, still had a lot to do. So much so that it took him the whole night, so he had no time to sleep. He had to check up on the people, check up on economics, how the money was doing for the village, if the shinobi survived, how each clan head was doing, how severe the damages were, and all of that. Also already making plans as how this Leaf Village would survive for the next few weeks, as they had lost a great deal of people and houses, so they would need to make shelters, or temporary houses, or something. And food would now also be scarce, as a lot of crops has been damaged, and storage facilities have been completely destroyed. It wasn't easy, but he was glad that his family was safe. But he always kept that in the back of his head. Save them. What did this old man mean? Save who? Who should be saved? Who was still in danger? But Minato would not find out for a while. The next 2 years came by like a flash. There was always something to do, always something the village needed. And they also had to focus more on training new shinobi, as a few of them died during the Nine-Tailed attack, which also hurt the economy, as a large part of their income of the Leaf Village was because of shinobi and their missions. So it was a big problem. But now, 2 years later, they seemed to be back on their feet. Everything was almost back to normal, and people were smiling again. Everyone had a home, everyone had food, everyone seemed to find happiness. It would finally be a time of prosperity, but Minato was still not happy. Who should he save? Who should he have saved? Was it already in the past? Or was it yet to come? What should I do? Minato had no idea. But then, something happened. Whilst Kushina took Naruto over to Mikoto's house, where Naruto and Sasuke were to play, as they were almost the same age, just a difference of a few days, Naruto changed. His beautiful blue eyes that his mother had loved were now slit red. A murderous red. And his hair grew longer. And his chakra became visible. There was a whole chakra cloak around his body. And then a tail began to appear. A tail that's only visible on foxes. But now it was made out of chakra on her own son. Kushina was terrified and was frozen in place until Naruto jumped at Sasuke and bit him in the arm, leaving a hefty mark, until Itachi kicked Naruto to the wall, where he fell to the ground and was knocked out. "Are you okay, Sasuke?" Itachi was really worried about his brother, as it looked like it hurt, and his brother was screaming and crying. Both mothers were now out of their shock, Mikoto going over to Sasuke, and Kushina going over to Naruto, but still staying at a meter's distance, not knowing what to expect. What was that? Minato, who sensed a disruption in his wife's chakra, came immediately, and saw the horror on her face. Kushina looking at her son, as if he was not a son, but a monster. After everyone taking a minute to understand what just happened, Minato's filled in, and Fugaku is too. Itachi went to the measure as to flip over Naruto, who was laying on his stomach, and open his eyes forcefully and put him under a genjutsu, which would keep him asleep. Now, this genjutsu wasn't very good, as Itachi was only 8 and had only unlocked his Sharingan about 3 months ago now. The news of this incident spread rather quickly, as Minato knew he had to do something about it. It was his own son after all. A meeting was held, and of course Kushina was present, but a lot of the important people of the village were too. All the clan heads, such as the Inuzuka clan, Hyuga and Uchiha of course, as well as the elders, Minato, Kushina, and some other influential figures were there. They were to discuss the situation of Naruto, who went rampant on another child his age, and whilst it wasn't a big incident, everyone knew why it was the case. Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed beast, and this was the beast showing his true colors. It was obvious. Danzo suggested something that no one was willing to say, but each one had thought about it in their own way. I'd say there's two options here. Either we give the tailed beast to someone else and, well, you know what happens. Or he leaves. Can't let him be. At first Kushina was outraged and Minato wasn't happy either. But then they stopped. They thought about it. Killing Naruto was no option, as, yeah, they could take out the tailed beast, but that would kill their son, and they weren't willing to do that. But perhaps it would be better if he left. But they couldn't let go of their only tailed beast. So they found a middle ground. They would leave him in the forest of death. There he would fight for his survival, and perhaps he would be saved from this terror from the tailed beast, and perhaps return to his parents' arms one day. But that was only a distant wish. For now, that was the best plan they had. And so, a vote was held, and everyone agreed Naruto was to be sent to the Forest of Death. The main reason Minato agreed was because of the old man's words. Save them. Perhaps he meant that the tailed beast would one day go rampant. That's why he saved and revived Minato and Kushina, and perhaps that's why Naruto should not have been an orphan. Perhaps this is the reason that Naruto was to be kept away from the village, and Minato and Kushina were the ones to do it. Minato did have the power to do it and to order it, so perhaps that's why he was the one that got the words, the wise words, to save them. Perhaps it was to save the village, to save the villagers, and to save his family and friends. It was decided Naruto would not be allowed to stay in the Belief Village. So, at the age of 2, Naruto is kicked out of the village and left in the Forest of Death. He has nothing to eat for the first 2 days and is now struggling, as he doesn't have any water either. He barely even knows what's going on, only he knows that there's no way that his family will help him. He just doesn't know why. He didn't have any memories of when he snapped, or rather when the tailed beast snapped. However, Kurama comes through to him and helps him because he doesn't want his host to die, therefore, it would kill him, as Kurama is directly attached to his host. Also, he tells Naruto his name. Naruto grabs some herbs, as Kurama helped him figure out which ones were poisonous and which ones were safe to eat, and then also made a, bucket out of wood a little later, but for now, he would use his hands to get water from the river. So he would just stay near the river, so whenever he got thirsty, he would be able to use the river's water. And then he finally befriended the tailed beast when giving him some berries. This was in their mindscape, and whilst Naruto was sleeping, but somehow he still had the berries in his pockets, which is why Kurama was allowed to have some, and they shared their berries and told each other stories. Naruto didn't have much to say, as he only had 2 years of life, and even though he doesn't remember much as he was only a baby for most of it. But Kurama surely had a lot to say. However, Naruto wasn't ready to understand all of it yet. At the age of 4, Naruto is now ready to go hunting for the first time in Kurama's mind. He wasn't ready before. I mean, a 2 or 3-year-old, what could he do against a large animal? But now, he was ready. So before, he was only eating roots and berries and herbs. He was a vegetarian, a vegan, to be precise. But now, he would start eating meat, and even hunt to get leather and make clothes or a tent or anything. The opportunities were endless, but for now, he had to find his first animal. Naruto looks for a deer, as there is a herd at the river nearby. To kill the deer, he uses a handcrafted kunai made out of wood that Kurama helped him make. Many wonderful things that Naruto made, including a form of shelter, was with Kurama's help. Most of his time, Kurama talked with Naruto in his mindscape about it, and then used his telepathic voice to guide him through it, whatever it was. But sometimes a main example was building his house. Kurama completely took over Naruto's body and used his chakra and knowledge of human ninjutsu and control of the elements, made some hand signs which controlled the earth in a way which first created a hole in front of the now possessed Naruto, then seemingly out of nowhere built stairs out of mud that was yet to harden into actual solid rock. Then a tunnel opened and continued underground, and rooms appeared branching off over the main hallway. All this happened in mere seconds, so to any bystander it looked like magic, because no one could do something so precise so quickly. This happened when Naruto was 3, a whole year before he started hunting, but also a whole year after he first arrived in the Forest of Death. Before that, Naruto lived in a hollow tree at the beginning, as it was the only one he found, but it would at least shelter him from rain and wind, and he could try his best to sleep in it. He also got some leaves together to make a pile of a pillow. Then later, he lived in a cave, but neither compared to what seemed like this underground villa in Naruto's mind. When Naruto got back to consciousness, he explored the place he would now call home, and saw beautiful carvings on the walls which were like paintings depicting certain events. Whilst going along the walls, Kurama explains what each of these carvings means and their backstory. There's one of Kaguya standing in front of the chakra tree, then another of her 2 sons defeating her in a battle, then splitting up the Ten Tails into 9 smaller, less powerful tailed beasts, and the story then took a pretty much personalized way. Finally, Naruto understood. It was at first the story of chakra and shinobi, but also the tailed beast's creation, and then later on took a very personalized turn and focused on Kurama's life. But that's going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. By the way, this is the series that I'm going to be continuing for more than one part. Just saying.